And good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Coffee with a Captain. Captain Miles, can you give us an update on what we've been up to for the past week?
So Saturday last week, the sailing crew came aboard to start getting the boat ready. So for a week now, there's been stocking up the boat to a degree, picking up maintenance projects that got started, starting new maintenance projects, all oriented towards preparing the vessel for campaigning this year. So we're a crew of 12. Everybody's living on board except myself, and I come in from the outside. And and it's a 7-day-a-week process with periodic time off, depending upon. I mean, you set up an all-hands day off Thursday, but we're back at it, have been. So there's caulking, a fair amount of deck caulking going on in spaces that have been suspicious for previous leaks and more recent leaks. So in engineering, we're overhauling a fuel manifold system. I think that's completed now.
It doesn't leak.
A very fiddly process,
Yeah.
but hooray, good. That's swell. The upgrade for the GMDSS antenna farm back aft that the second mate Russell is handling has been ongoing. Ian, our cook, is keeping everybody happy.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
Not just nourished, also happy.
Yeah. There's been a Tall Ships America virtual conference going
Yeah.
on. Can you kind of speak a little bit about that and your impressions of that so far?
Yeah, so Tall Ships America, otherwise also known as the American Sail Training Association, is a national organization started back in '73 that represents all of the interests related to training youth, educating youth, preserving history for local areas. So across the country, if we have 100 and plus tall ships, these are the folks that are part of that community, and Tall Ships America has annual conferences. Well, in a year with the pandemic, it's gone totally virtual. And I gotta say, what a terrific project that's turned into. I mean, I'm not techie enough to know what to anticipate, but the results have been wonderful. The ability of the crew, and you set it up so they could have the day off for one on these conference times, and it's once a week. Maybe twice a week for a shorter period on a second afternoon, but basically it's once a week for the month of February. So for our listeners, check it out. Go to Tall Ships America's website and check it out. It's topics such as cultural topics, inclusion and diversity topics. What can be proactive about that? Of course, there's marine professional operations topics. There's management of company. There's insurance in the context of COVID. It's a wide-ranging thing. We're only halfway through the conference. We've got more to go.
Yeah, no, it's been a really fun time so far. So if you joined us last week, you would have been introduced to 10 crew members, which leaves out 2 additional crew members that arrived later that afternoon. So we're going to take this time to introduce them to you.
Yeah.
So, Captain Miles, take it away.
Welcome aboard, Mary. Introduce
Thank
yourself
you.
to our listeners.
Hello, listeners. My name is Mary Walker. I'm a deckhand this season. I came here from the Hudson Valley up in New York, where I had been kind of just hanging out. Previous to that, I'd been working on the Clearwater, which is a fantastic replica of a Hudson River sloop that sails up and down the Hudson River, teaching people about ecology and the history of the area, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so you've been in the business a while, because all the applicants that come to Pride have to have applicable background. So describe some of that earliest experience that led you into the industry that you're working in.
I actually got into sailing entirely by accident. I had been told by a graduate program I was applying for that I needed more recent experience with environmental organizations on my resume, and so I signed up to do a month of winter maintenance on Clearwater, a fantastic environmental organization, and I ended up continually extending that contract to the end of their season. Mm-hmm. So signed up for 1 month, stayed for 9, and then...
What happened to graduate?
Maybe someday.
Okay.
But it turns out that it's a lot more fun and interesting to be sailing around instead of inside in a lab looking at things through microscopes, which is still fun, but in a very different way.
So after those 9 months, what developed after that?
After my season on Clearwater, I got on the Lady Maryland, another fantastic tall ship in Baltimore, and was on for their 2019 season. And then I did some winter engineering on Gazella up in Philadelphia.
Ooh, cool boat.
Back to Clearwater for 2020, the weirdest season, I think.
Yeah.
And now I'm here.
Yeah, we've been having a weird season too, so welcome aboard for what we hope is not going to be such a weird season.
Yeah.
Thank you. Great. Okay, good. All right, well, let's go on to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have Orion. Come on in. Oh, he's got to switch. Yeah, I got to transfer the mic. I keep forgetting about that. Oops. Sorry. There you go.
How do these work? That there.
You can just hold it or clip it on. Either one of those.
I'd feel more professional if I clipped it.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? All right, we're good.
Welcome aboard, Orion.
Thank you.
So, tell us all about yourself.
Okay, open-ended. I'm here. I like to sail.
Who are you?
Oh yeah,
Where
okay.
are you from?
All right. So I'm Orion. I'm from New Jersey, 20 minutes from New York State.
How about Orion?
What, full name?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I guess. Orion Hartman.
Okay.
Have
thank
fun
you.
with that.
And
Yeah.
you're from where again?
New Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Very North Ridgewood, New Jersey.
Yeah. Now, so how do you get into the business before you come to here?
Once again, mostly chance.
Oh, yeah?
Went to college, learned how to sail there at St. Mary's College of Maryland. They had
Oh,
club
St. Mary's.
Yeah.
That's a competitive outfit down
Yeah,
there.
so they had club sailing. I didn't want to race. I just wanted to be able to sail a boat and not capsize.
Right,
Found
yeah.
a friend that could sail. She taught me. Fantastic. Senior year, had an internship with the Maryland Doves, that little square rig ship.
Sure.
Sailed a couple times, mostly maintenance, but I liked it.
Yeah.
Graduate, end up doing conservation work with the AmeriCorps in the West, but still thought about sailing. Coming back to the East Coast, working at outdoor school on the eastern shore of Maryland, and we had summer trips on a skipjack and a biboat there. I remember how much I missed sailing and being with kids outdoors, and I decided, all right, let's do next year, just sail. I know this thing exists. I talked to captains out there, so I applied to different places. Worked in the Clearwater with Mary, actually, and started the pandemic. That happened. That was fun. Then went to the Amistad and worked on that boat for a bit.
Yeah.
Then went to the A.J. Meerwald in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Sold that for a bit. And then I saw this application and I applied. You took me, and now here I am.
Here you are. All right, cool.
How's it been here so far?
Pleasant. I quite like the crew. This is a good group. I'm happy to be here. Yeah. It's a pretty boat.
Well, the chief mate and I have worked pretty hard at creating this, what we hope is a good crew.
So far, so good.
So far, so good.
You know? We haven't
Six days into it. So far, so good.
we haven't sailed yet, so we'll see how that actually goes about. Dynamics will change, but you know.
Yeah.
I'm confident.
Yeah, that's great. All right, thank you very much, Orion.
Thank you.
You bet.
Where do you want this?
I'll take it back.
Great.
So Captain Miles, let's spend a bit of time describing what is going to be happening over the next 4 to 5 weeks in preparation of us going sailing.
Well, just the rig up alone is a 5-week window with preparation physically to the vessel. We're opening it up to about a 6-week period of time because of having been in an extended layup, and there's a need to opportunity plus a need to get into some things that got postponed from last year because we were such a reduced crew. We might have been able to do some things in 2020 had we been able to have a full crew for the whole season. So there's a certain amount of postponement that occurred in a layup that we're doing some catch up with. But basically what's going on is you go from a cold, dead boat to a live aboard situation, which is a transition. Pretty complex because of multiple systems between onboard fresh water, the galley gear, and there's been upgrades in the galley area that had to be done before crew came aboard. Ashore, there's a number of things that are not specific to the sailing of the boat. For instance, there's been a lot of overhaul through a wonderful volunteer in our cannons on deck, the carriages most specifically. But since the crew up, we've held back our volunteers because of the transition and making sure we didn't burst our bubble of hygienic security. But there's been a work on cannon doors because we have bulwarks with need to maintain the wear and tear that they get, and they get a fair amount of wear and tear between dockside snafus and
Sure.
But we're also doing a fair amount of training. We got ship familiarization with crew, so we spend a little bit of time with that. Not all at once, but in bits and pieces.
Yeah, all at once can be very overwhelming.
Oh man, yeah, I wouldn't remember but the first few words.
Right.
So it's looking forward, we're also balancing when to take the cover off. So the cover presents opportunity to do some things, but then you have to make a commitment, change it out, and we're having a weather pattern that is not very helpful with looking at taking this cover off.
Yes,
so,
cold and snow.
Yeah, and it looks like it could go all the way in through the end of next week. So it's tough. I know you've been thinking about maybe we could get it off this weekend, but anyway. So it's a complex process of ship familiarization, crew getting familiar with the tools, location of tools. It's a lot of a location of stuff. The lazarette's been empty, so there's a storage area there that's slowly going to be incorporated. All this stuff is ashore. Finding it ashore, using it from ashore. But before it comes aboard, there's the Sparlandia with our workshop stuff. So it's pushing back the actual uprig because of the weather and because of the opportunity to do things under the cover. At some point, we're going to have to swallow the possibility we won't be as finished in uprig when we do our first display, meant for mid-March, down in actually the third weekend of March in Annapolis, but we'll be operational. That will be the case. We'll have the spars up, we'll have much of the sails on, but our goal would be to be actually able to sail. But springtime weather that early in Maryland could go a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
Right now we're seeing sort of like it's going to be pretty uncomfortable.
Yeah, and it just sounds like it started raining.
Yeah.
Got a question in from Mike Wicklin. Not a question, just good news that Pride will be sailing this season again.
Yeah, no, we're all looking for that. So the crew has come in from self-isolation for 2 weeks prior to coming in. We've been careful not to introduce any new outsiders for this last week. We've got a few more days to go. There has been a daily regimen of checking in conditions of the temperatures and the personal assessments of how people feel, and we're seeing no signs at all that there has been any threat. The discipline, the diligence that's going on with going shopping for food and what have you is at its high level, as is the best way for helping out when you go outside of the bubble. And so we're looking forward to a year where we can operate the boat in that disciplined fashion, that maybe guest crew can come aboard for voyages if they would follow the same pattern.
Sure. So can you describe the process of uprig? We get a big crane in here to put all these sticks up in the air, right?
No. We don't take any advantage of that kind of stuff. No, we do it ourselves, and we're not the only vessel to do this kind of thing ourselves, but we've been doing it since we started laying the boat up back in the early 90s during the winter. So to go up, you set up your halyards on the lowermosts so that you can have lifting capability, multiple parts, through our crank call system to send topmasts up. Now, topmasts have to come aboard. They have to be dressed for the shroud system that they have. And then with the process, they go up through the doubling area and get fitted, pronounced differently, spelt normally, which is a process of a key going across the bottom of a topmast to keep it from telescoping down, tighten things up, and then in turn, depending upon which topmast you're talking about, other details will go on. In the case of the fore topmast, we'll then bring aboard a topsail yard. But before it comes aboard, it gets totally dressed ashore with a sail stitched on and tied on and furled up, and that gives the crew a chance to get familiar with what they're going to look at when they're up there on the foot ropes of the topsail yard. Because we can do mock, this is what it's like, this is how it works, this is what's got to be set up. Then that goes up through a set of halyards, gets brought up vertically from the horizontal on deck, and then crossed and hooked up, and then eventually that's going to be followed by the course yard. Now there's no sail on the course yard, so it's much more direct. Get it dressed with foot ropes and gear that's not on it, and then send that up. So it's sails follow. You got a foresail, no boom, just a gaff. Go hook the gaff up to its multiple parts, being the peak halyard, throat halyard. Same thing with the main gaff. The boom, when it comes, main boom, the only boom we have, it comes aboard. That's another one of our biggest pieces to move around, it takes a little bit of geometry to get that aboard, and then when
and in place,
and in place, it overhangs the stern. This dock location doesn't allow it to go over the stern. So we either twist the boat or figure out a way to go out to the quarter, or maybe, shift their boat around. Yeah. So it's a process, and some of these things takes the entire crew. Some of these things take only half the crew. Then we get into the really fiddly details, like you got to stitch the sail to a hoop, and that can take forever.
Sure.
For both the person doing it and for me watching it,
going, oh boy, this is taking forever. Sure.
And of course, as we get systems going and the cover is off, we get into more direct safety emergency processes. Mm-hmm. So we're doing a fire drill. We're walking through an overboard drill. So once we start to move the boat around, we'll be getting into underway doing these safety drills, these emergency drills, on again and again and again, because that's how you become second nature in terms of your response to these things.
Sure. We've got a couple of questions in. Marcus asked if we're hiring. We're all full up on crew at the moment, but keep an eye on the billet bank. Towards the end of the season, we oftentimes have crew that are signing off, fulfilling their commitment, so there will be some job opportunities in the future. Stanley asked who the cook is this spring, and that's Ian Bova, who has been with this vessel in different capacities before. So this uprig process is going to be happening over the next few weeks, and we're going to be bringing you into that process as it starts to happen. So keep an eye out for that, and we'll explain things as we go along. Feel free to ask questions ahead of time or during the live interviews. And Captain Miles, do you have any parting words for us today?
It still remains very important. Stay diligent.
And warm.